In this episode of Vinyl Haul, I've got some thrash, some death, and some epic doom metal, as well as a brand new Blackened heavy metal album whose namesake might have once been in a rather popular Norwegian black metal band. So hang out for a bit as I talk about some cool records. I mean, why not, right? First up is the 8th studio album from Greek thrash metal band Suicidal Angels. This is Profane Prayer, released in 2024 by Nuclear Blast Records. So a triumphant isolated riff opens the album, leading us into rapid drumming and melodic chugs for the track When the Lions Die. Hearing a lot of the same aggression from bands like classic Slayer and modern Creator throughout the record, but with touches of heavy metal throughout, noticeably in the frequent mid-pace moments. And both Crypts of Madness as well as Virtues of Destruction definitely have some of that Slayer influence in them, for sure. I'm especially getting an influence in some of the shoutier moments, as well as in some of the vocal cadences. Also, the trad metal is particularly strong in the track Death Stalker, which also has a clean vocal segment with some real talent, reminding me of classic Armored Saint singing. Not sure if this song might take some listeners out of the album, with some maybe expecting more continuity in the tracks. I'm good with it though. The production is also worth mentioning as there's an overall clean sound that might bring Modern Testament to mind. Speaking of which, there's definitely some really strong guitar work here during the solos and overall aggressive melodies, but especially the solos, definitely handled by Gus Drax, alternating between shreddy and melodic, but always keeping with the thrash-heavy foundation laid down by the others. Admittedly, there are rare moments where a track can get a little bit meat and potatoes, and it's this lead work that definitely wakes things up. As for lyrical topics, the band gets a bit lofty with its subjects, traversing Nietzsche, Socrates, and Edgar Allan Poe. So, not just tracks about thrash, or thrashing, or getting ready to thrash. Album closes with a nearly 10-minute epic track, The Fire Paths of Fate, delivering ethereal and eerie female vocal melodies, a slow methodical groove, and plenty of opportunities for Drax to show off his more expressive and agile riffing, including at least one Eastern stringed instrument. Surprisingly, the track didn't feel long at all, and my attention was definitely kept the entire time, which is pretty great. Anyways, cover art here is by Ed Repka, and gotta say it's a hell of a lot less predictable than the glut of covers he's done in recent years. He definitely has a style you recognize. Funny enough, I didn't recognize him in this piece at all until I saw the credits, so that's kind of worth a mention. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP red. It is limited to 2,600 copies. Also has an insert, lyrics and credits on one side, more lyrics on the reverse. It also comes in a gatefold jacket with numerous pics of the band. There you go. As for favorites, definitely Purified by Fire, also Death Stalker, and Guard of the Insane. Also music videos are available for When the Lions Die and Purified by Fire, as well as a lyric video for Virtues of Destruction. You can check those out at the Nuclear Blast Records YouTube channel. So if you dig classic thrash, but also modern acts such as Warbringer and Havoc, you'll no doubt like this album. It's certainly not total and pure thrash from start to finish, as there are those mid-pace and even slower segments throughout. So if you like your thrash a bit more dynamic, then definitely check out Suicidal Angels. Next is the 3rd studio album from American progressive death metal band Horrendous. This is a Nerida, originally released in 2015, but now reissued in 2022 by Dark Descent Records. So, fading up guitar passage provides some initial moodiness, but then with a blood-curdling death scream, the track quickly kicks in proper, with progressive off-kilter riffing with a driving beat and wandering bass lines in the form of The Nihilist. And I'm certainly catching faint hints of mid-career death at times, not just here, but also in other tracks, especially in Polaris. Vocals are between growly and a sort of shouty gasp, but powerfully projected at the same time. In fact, all 3 instruments are very well balanced, including very audible bass guitar. Definitely check out the instrumental track Sideria for some of that bass work in particular. Throughout the record, the ever-shifting riff patterns, along with a frequently melodic and dreamy soloing style, provide a great deal of the dynamic. Definitely fair to say there's a lot of intricacy here that might take a number of listens to fully absorb. Anyways, album ends with the solipsist mirrors gaze with a slow crunching riff and more of that meandering solo work, along with some mid-paced tremolo riffing sprinkled in. Very melodic for the most part, and an almost melancholic way to end the record, by comparison. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, ultra clear with dark blue, red, white splatter. Let's reverse for you. So it comes with an insert. We've got credits and picture of the band on one side, and lyrics and crowd shot on the reverse. I especially love this guy right here. Look how happy he is. Amazing, right? Anyways, favorite tracks are Ozymandias, Polaris, and Stillborn Gods. Also, thanks to my pal Eric for sending along this record. I told him before that I was looking more into Horrendous, so he graciously sent this along. Didn't even ask him to. Fantastic. Anyways, Anerida certainly continues this band's journey from straightforward death metal into more death prog sounds, and also with a furtherance into the melodic, but still with plenty of time-shifting madness to break things up. Definitely enjoying this record. Next up is the third studio album from American epic doom metal band Crypt Sermon. This is The Stygian Rose, released in 2024 by Dark Descent Records. So, violins open the record with an eerie tone, but soon enough a drum roll takes us into a driving up-tempo riff, leading into wailing leads, and then settling into a mid-paced headbanger, all of which hitting well to the dramatic quality of this epic doom metal record. Quite a bit of variety in the vocals, from raspy to high-pitched to clean to even a scant moment or two of growliness. In fact, Brooks Wilson's vocals are overall powerful and expressive, occasionally making me think of an epic doom version of Mike Howe. Also, some evocative vocal layering throughout, supplying a real sense of melody mixed with the epic. Lead work definitely has some Judas Priest in it, jumping expertly between soaring and shreddy. Riffs in general are massive and sometimes intricate with a sort of immersive quality at times. There are also strains of heavy metal here, both in some of the song structures, but also in some of the delivery, which sometimes skitters a little close into King Diamond territory in some of the instrumentation. However, there is still plenty of epic doom here. We also get some very clean and almost romantic singing in parts of Scrying Orb, which was unexpected, but still works for the track. Also hearing more keyboards than usual, which would make a whole lot of sense since the band now has a dedicated keyboardist in Tanner Anderson, for whom we get both synth and piano, providing additional color. Also, songs can get long, as you might expect from an epic doom record, generally ranging between 5 and 8 minutes, except for the 11-minute ending title track, which starts with a sad piano passage, but then makes its way through a number of musical moods. And even with this epic-length song, the album is a full 10 minutes shorter than the last album, which might make some listeners wish there was more music on the record. Truthfully, I wouldn't have minded just a little bit more myself. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, orange translucent. The graphic from the cover there on the reverse. Also, we have a poster of the artwork. There we are. Pretty cool. Also get a little booklet right there. It's kind of an interesting little size. It's small and square. But I do love some of the illustrations inside. I'll go through a little bit of it quickly. I won't do every page. But yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Kind of fits in the style and, theme of this band in general. Makes a lot of sense. There's that. And then nothing but red on the reverse. Also, gatefold jacket. Should probably mention that. With pics of the band. Very nice. As for favorite tracks, definitely Glimmers in the Underworld and Heavy is the Crown of Bone. And speaking of both, a music video is available for Heavy is the Crown of Bone, as well as a lyric video for Glimmers in the Underworld. You can find those at the Dark Descent Records YouTube channel. And yes, I am leaning heavily towards picking up the band's latest EP, just in case you're expecting that instead of this full-length release from last year. If I get it, I'll definitely discuss it in a future episode of Vinyl Haul. And realistically, signs point to probably. So anyways, a more ambitious and certainly atmospheric record than their previous album, The Ruins of Fading Light from 2019, which I did cover sometime back on the show. Check that out if interested. I did dig that album, but it's not hard to say that I like the Stygian Rose considerably more. You can easily hear the growth all over the place here. If you haven't heard the band, I might suggest you start with this record and then work your way back into the catalog. Killer album. Next is the compilation album of metal bands from the Pacific Northwest of the United States. This is Pacific Metal Project, released in 1985 by Coma Records and then licensed to Restless Records. So at least one interesting connection I discovered here was Jeff Gilbert, who is a music promoter and also responsible for curating and even putting out this comp on his Coma Records label. At the same time, he also ran Ground Zero Records, and you might know that label as having released the very first Metal Church album, a band that also came out of the Pacific Northwest, of course. Sadly, no Metal Church here, but what you do get is a number of somewhat unknown bands, except maybe for Heir Apparent and DC LaCroix. Other bands on this compilation include Myth, Mistrust, Manchild, Ransom, Lookout, Phase, Arson, and XINR, the last of which pronounced X-Sinner. Can you tell they're a Christian metal band? Yeah. Anyways, a couple points of interest here. Myth is the band that Jeff Tate was in before he joined Queensryche. In fact, this track has his replacement singer on it. Spoiler alert, he's no Jeff Tate. Also, the singer for Mistrust was from the band Culprit, a much better known band at the time. All but two bands here are on Metal Archives, such being Myth and Phase, so you can dig into some of that background there if you'd like. Overall, a lot of traditional heavy metal with some hard rock tossed in for good measure. Some bigger band influences I hear include Metal Church, of course, as well as Hellion, Fastway, early Iron Maiden, Cirith Ungol, and some vaguely related LA Sunset strip metal. Also, it might go without saying, there's definitely some Queensryche worship here in at least a few of the bands, and it's pretty glaring, so you can imagine the impact they had on the regional scene. Also, Jeff designed the cover here, so good job, Jeff. Anyways, Final Variant is 1 LP, classic black, as you would probably expect. Yeah. Also has an insert with who's in the band, how to join their fan clubs or write them or whatever. There's the first 5 bands there. Heir Apparent there, who's actually going to be the next Queensryche, according to a lot of other people. And they are kind of known, but I don't know. We just didn't hear enough from them, I guess. Cool band, though. There's the other side as well. I love this band called Lookout. Dio would be proud. There we go. Favorite tracks on this one are Tear Down the Wall by Heir Apparent, Let Me Hear the Thunder by Myth, and Rip It Up by DC LaCroix. And if interested, Ground Zero Records did put out a compilation album a year before this one called Northwest Metal Fest, which does have Metal Church on it, and 9 other bands as well. And yes, I might have to track that one down. Did I mention I love old metal comps? Because yes, I definitely do. So the comp is actually pretty good for the most part, with some catchy indie metal throughout. If you dug some of the influences I mentioned, you should absolutely look into this one. Next is the third studio album from American heavy metal band Night Demon. This is Outsider, released in 2023 by Century Media Records. So, album begins with a short instrumental track called Prelude, with a synth pulse and a following melodic bass line. Then wistful piano and wailing guitar join in, building effectively to a triumphant crescendo, and then transitioning to the opening of the energetic title track. And right away, that hard rock catchiness and infectious sing-along quality that Night Demon is known for is really apparent, but always mixed with hard power chords and plenty of heavy metal goodness throughout. Definitely catching more prominent bass guitar in this mix, which makes a whole lot of sense for a trio, dialing up that element to where it belongs. And the song Beyond the Grave is a clear example of that, but also of their pushing the boundaries of their established sound for a more dynamic record. Love the galloping crunch of Obsidian, which also reminds us of their love for Nawabum. Getting a lot more emotion expressed in Jarvis's voice than on previous efforts as well. You should check out the title track, and again, Beyond the Grave for some of that. The record also winds down at times for slower and more emotional moments, such as on Awake, but also elsewhere. Definitely check out the lyrics of the songs as well, but especially to Awake, as they're pretty damn good. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, Coke bottle clear. It is limited to 500 copies. Yep. Also got an insert with lyrics on one side and a really cool story. The album is a little bit of a concept album, so this goes through each track kind of in story form and tells you all about that. In case you're not paying attention to the story, you can just read it right there. How's that? Unfortunately, the vinyl on this one is missing the track The Last Day, which has an aggressive speed metal flavor to it, and really should have been on this somewhat short 35-minute record. Really can't see a good reason why it's not here. Putting that aside, favorite tracks are Outsider, Escape from Beyond, and the epic album closer, The Wrath. Also, music videos are available for Outsider, Beyond the Grave, and The Wrath. You can watch all of them at the Century Media Records YouTube channel. Also, this means I have almost all of the major releases from this band, excluding their 2018 live album, Live Darkness, which I should get at some point. Let me know if you've heard that live album and what you think of it in the comments below. Anyways, it's another great Night Demon album, though this time there's more musical growth in terms of dynamics and added elements. A very emotionally driven record as well, but still totally upbeat and definitely catchy where it counts. If you dig this band, there is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't already own the album. Next is the fourth studio album from Dutch death doom band Graceless. This is Icons of Ruin, released in 2025 by Listenable Records. So album begins with God Shines in Absence with a considerable amount of old school death metal chug, bringing both Bolt Thrower and Asphyx to mind. Vocals are abrasive and deep in the growls, at times similar to Benediction. Some of those influences mix a bit with classic Swede death, but like Asphyx, it's undeniably rooted in the doomy side of death, and from varying tempos from slow to slightly above mid-pace. Speaking of the doom, really love the menace and power of tracks such as Sanctified Slaughter and Ungodliness, as well as the effective drum rhythms throughout, including mid-tempo plod, D-beats, gallops, and halftime shifts. Lash Me to My Painful Death shows a more ambitious side of the band, expanding their sound to more somber moods, as does Hardening of the Heart, which skitters a touch into Tribulation territory, and the midsection of Rise of the Blackest Sun with its jangly and creepily disjointed riff passage. And some of that mood even carries over to solos and much heavier tracks such as Night of the Slain, as well as the final track. Speaking of the latter, the album ends with the almost punky death track Resurrection of the Graveless, a decent upbeat song, but also seems a little out of place from the rest, save for that closeout riff, which is just massive and crushing. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, black-green swirl. Different on both sides. You know I love that. Also insert credits, nice picture of the band, and some lyrics on the reverse. As for favorites, Sanctified Slaughter, really cool song, as well as Night of the Slain and Ungodliness. Also, music videos are out for Resurrection of the Graveless and Hardening of the Heart, as well as a lyric video for Sanctified Slaughter. You should check those out at the Listenable Records YouTube channel. So, a solid death metal record that some might see as a transitional album with the added somber elements of goth and black, and even a little thrash weaving their way through the tracks. And maybe the band will head more into this direction with future releases. If so, I'm pretty much on board, as this record is definitely getting repeated spins for me. Check it out. Next up is the second studio album from Norwegian Blackened heavy metal band Gaahls Wyrd. This is Braiding the Stories, released in 2025 by Season of Mist. So a dreamy and echoey guitar passage opened the album alongside Gaahls' spoken words, and then replaced by two differently pitched voices singing softly, all of which leading into the mournful and haunting title track. And those two voices are assumed to be Gaahls, as he has credit for all vocals, even if the higher one, both here and elsewhere, doesn't sound entirely masculine. Definitely not enough here for the black metal purists, and even that genre's influence is very minimal here. In fact, there's a lot going on with this album that doesn't fit neatly under the moniker of blackened heavy metal at all. With a wealth of additional elements such as avant-garde, progressive, post-rock, goth, doom, and even moments of shoegaze and neo-folk. It also seems likely that taken as a whole, this album mostly functions well as a singular work, and was perhaps meant to be listened to in that capacity, having the common threads of texture and atmosphere throughout. Likewise, Gahl utilizes many vocal styles, not just spoken word, but also cleans, whispers, wails, and more. However, the atmospheric threads are temporarily broken on the fourth song, Time and Timeless Timeline, which sharply introduces some up-tempo and chord-heavy aggression into an otherwise dreamlike album. So maybe expect this track to wake you up from that dream just a bit. Granted, Root the Will does this too, but not to the same degree, and even that track has at least some ties to the overall vibe of the album. Also of note is the production here, which has a real clarity to it that helps to create the overall immersion of the album. Producer is Ivor Sondoy, drummer for Enslaved, and who has also been producing records for that band since 2010. And I can definitely hear some production similarities at times, so I can guess he was specifically picked for that reason. Anyways, vinyl variant is 1 LP, crystal clear and black, marbled, limited to 300 copies. There you are. It's hard to see. It looks more like just a regular clear record. You can't see the black marbled really well in this light, but it's there. It's got a gatefold. Some descending lyrics there to one of the tracks. And that's about it. Also, notice how shiny this cover is. It's like transcending obscurity shiny. It's crazy. Anyways, favorite tracks. Time and Timeless Timeline, great song. Also Visions and Time and Flowing Starlight. Also, a music video is available for Time and Timeless Timeline, as well as a lyric video for Braiding the Stories. You can find both at the Season of Mist YouTube channel. So it might be appropriate here to say that if you're expecting an album that sonically resembles the first single from the album, such being Time and Timeless Timeline, you'd be incredibly misled because most of the record takes on a slow to mid-paced tone, full of ambience and gloom. In fact, it feels really deceptive to promote the track when the remainder of the album is nothing like that. So, know that going in. Even so, I really enjoyed the mellow sadness and immersive feel here, and can see myself pulling it out when I'm in a very specific mood. It would have to be an odd mood to be sure, because this is a pretty odd album. But, certainly dig it for what it is. So just another item I picked up that I have less to talk about, but is certainly worth showing. This is Fathers, Brothers, and Sons Surviving Anguish, Abandonment, and Anthrax by Frank Bello. Basically an autobiography from the Anthrax bassist, beginning with a foreword by another bass player by the name of Gene Simmons. I bought this while on my Colorado vacation early this summer at the Boulder bookstore called Trident Books. Like their stamp is right there. Strangely, it was in their discount bin outside of the store with the other lesser-loved books. I just kept looking at it going, really? Only $5? I mean, sure, why not buy it? I mean, the book is $28 retail, right on the inside flap, which is hard to see, but it's right there. Funny thing is, to make things even better, I opened this book, and lo and behold, Frank's autograph. So, a bit of an awesome cheap find. There are some pictures in here, by the way. I'll just go through some of them. There's the foreword by Gene Simmons. A lot of stuff from his childhood, but also his touring, other stuff. Look, there's him with little Uncle Charlie. How about that? His brother's there, his family. Good shot of Lemmy and Frank there. I'm going to go through just some of these. Chuck D, of course, they did Bring the Noise. Him and Lady Gaga. That's kind of fun. And of course, there are more shots here, of course. Seen a lot of family shots as well. I'm going to assume this goes through a great deal of family. That seems very important to Frank, as I've read in interviews with him at the time. There's the back cover there for you. Anyways, yeah, haven't read it yet. Looking forward to it. I love biographies of metal guys, so there we go. Frank Bello. So a couple of new releases here, as I did want to catch up with some of the records I missed over the last few years. Definitely let me know what you think of the albums I covered this month. If you have other favorites from these same bands, or even if you just want to chat about new stuff you're spinning these days, you should definitely leave that and anything else that comes to mind in the comments below. Of course, if you just happen to have stumbled onto my channel today, my name is Matt. This is the Accusation Network, where each and every week we do videos on metal vinyl collecting, but also classic and modern metal in general. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel and all that sounds pretty great, you should definitely hit that subscribe button. Maybe also hit a like on this one and share out my videos, including this one, with your friends on social media. And of course, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.